And we welcome you into the Handycast for Tuesday, February the 4th. I'm Charles Hanagriff, former LSU coach Dan Canevari, as we make the switch from football into baseball. Cano, good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Charlie. It's good to be back in Baton Rouge, and it's baseball season, man.
Pitchers and catchers have reported, along with the
That's
rest
it.
of the
Yeah.
rest of the team. What we're going to do over the next two podcasts is we're going to give you a preview of LSU's 2025 baseball team, a top 5 team in all of the preseason rankings, and one that's got their designs on Omaha yet again. So, Dan, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into the lineup, the roster. We're going to do the hitters this week. We're going to do the pitchers next week. This is a very good roster. A lot of work done by Jay Johnson and his staff, not only in high school recruiting, but in the transfer portal. So they've got everything that they need to make a deep run in 2025.
Yeah, Jay stocked the kitchen very, very well. He's got a lot of depth, as you can see if you look at the roster. A lot of left-handed hitters. He's got power. He's got speed. He's really gone out there and been, I guess, in college baseball now, he's been a great GM in putting together the roster, and I think he's got enough guys coming back that have been out there on the field that's going to show that this is a very talented but experienced team as well.
And you talked to Jay extensively. You've also been out there and seen it. And we also mind the brain of Skip Bertman, who's been out to a bunch of practices, and we had a chance to talk to him.
Right, I had a chance to talk to Skip, and of course he's got a great opinion. He has regular meetings with Jay and the coaching staff. You know, it's part of his retirement entertainment, but Skip really likes this team, likes the talent on the team, and of course the coaching staff's tremendous.
All right, let's get right to it. We'll start in the outfield because there's a lot of guys in the outfield that could play. And I want to start, oddly enough, with a newcomer in Derek Curiel, because this was one of the highest rated players, the position-wise, that there's a pitcher as well on this team that was highly rated, but would have been no surprise had Derek Curiel gone pro. He was a number 10 player in the country. He was a number 2 player in California, and D1 Baseball has already named him as their SEC Freshman of the Year in the preseason. Looks like he will be the opening day left fielder.
Yes. Speaking with Skip, I don't think there's any doubt that opening day he's going to be in left field. Fine young talent, like you're saying, Charlie. Going to be a high draft pick, great player. Adds a lot to it. Again, a lefty out there and can really cover some ground.
You know, we're going to make some comparisons. I don't know if there's a good comparison to him of a former player just yet until we see him play a little bit more. But here's what I do know, that when a guy turns down the type of money that he turned down to go pro, and you already know he's going to be a high pick later on, these are usually the guys that show up, they get in the starting lineup the first day, and they don't get out of it for 3 years.
Right. And a guy that goes that high in the draft, he's got to be a 5-tool player, meaning he does just about a little bit of everything. Let's compare and look at Stephen Milam last year. He stepped in the lineup and never left.
Yeah. There's some Daniel Cabrera was one of the names that I've heard, who was a starter pretty much the whole time. Curiel is going to be, I think, an all-conference player, if not higher than that.
Right.
Now, you tell me, freshman comes in there the first time, Alec Buck Stadium, then you go in the SEC, and you're seeing the best pitching you've ever seen in your life. That adjustment for a freshman.
It's I don't know if, as far as the pitching and everything, because he's been in high-level competition. Being a high draft pick, he's got a lot of testing's been done on his competitiveness. How does he handle things? But there's nothing like stepping out in the box on a Friday night for opening day, and there's nothing like playing against SEC competition. I think he made a wise move in coming to LSU, because that's going to prepare him even more for pro ball, and the pro scouts can see what he does under the lights, so to speak. I think he's going to handle it well. It's going to be a transition. He may struggle a little early. It just depends on how well he handles the pressure that he puts on himself from his own expectations.
This is a schedule that will allow for some of the youngsters to ease in. This is not a pre-conference schedule that is littered with a lot of ranked teams. So there'll be some advantages into the learning curve for some of these guys. The center fielder, at least on opening night, we think will be Chris Stanfield. If that name sounds familiar, he's been the starter. It was a starter at Auburn last year. Started 51 games for them. Hit 276, 4 homers, 25 ribbies, and stole 9 bases. Defensively, I think he's going to cover a lot of ground. Keno, I think his numbers were pretty modest at Auburn. They weren't bad, but they weren't great. I think that Jay Johnson looks at him and sees, what they did with Braswell last year, Michael Braswell, who had modest numbers at South Carolina, came here, got off to a slow start. But the last month of the season, month and a half of the season, he might have been LSU's best player or second best player. I think there's some comparisons there with Stanfield. Hey, the numbers don't look overwhelming, but this guy's played a lot of SEC baseball, and he comes here and maybe he's ready to take that next step.
Well, Charlie, you hit on it when you were talking about Curiel. At least you know that Stanfield has been in the SEC. He's been under the big lights, and you know he's going to be fine. Plus, he's a good defensive center fielder that can cover a lot of ground. Again, with the depth that Jay's got, he may end up starting in center field, but depending on how the game goes, you could make some transitions and make some changes. He's got a lot of depth, especially in the outfield. But, Stanfield, one of those guys, he's a righty, so you have a lot of lefties on the bench, so you can play some lefty-righty as well. But I think he's a good guy to start and get going in the season and see how he adapts to the LSU atmosphere.
I think there's as many as 7 guys who could start more than, say, 1 or 2 games in this outfield. 7 guys who I could see starting anywhere from 5 to 10 games besides the permanent starters.
Right, and talking with Jay Johnson, that's the way he feels. He's got 7 guys that legitimately could start at any time in the outfield at LSU, and what a great problem that is for him. And, of course, any coach will admit the greatest thing you have as a coach is internal competition, which provides the motivation for everybody to play better and play at their best all the time.
All right, so I think those 2 have a great chance to start from opening day and going forward. After that, I think there's going to be some competition. I think a lot of these guys are going to play. I would say in right field, we're talking about Ashton Larson and Josh Pearson. Now, Pearson's been here forever. This guy was making big plays and hitting bombs in the 2023 National Championship season. Last year, didn't have a great offensive year. 244, had 8 homers. Still run the ball out of the park. And, again, seen a lot of SEC pitching. So he's a candidate to start. Larson hit 337 in SEC play last year and got better, I thought, as the season went along. Those would be my next 2 guys.
He had a great summer, Larson, as well. I think he was named in the league. He played in the summer. He was named a Player of the Year.
He was the MVP at the Cape,
right.
For his – and I want to ask you about that, but continue.
Anyway, the thing is, you got to throw another person in there that's also in the mix. Coming back as Jake Brown is in that mix to play in right field, and depending on how Curiel handles it, left field. But I think you're going to see a lot of different outfield lineups as you go along. But Pearson, the one thing, gosh, the kid's clutch.
Yeah.
I mean, he's made some clutch plays through the years, and there's a lot to be said. There's a confidence factor on a coach saying, I know if the pressure's on, I know Pearson's going to perform.
He doesn't make that catching game one of the championship series in 23. LSU doesn't win the title.
Can't win it.
Yeah, if that ball gets by him, Florida wins that game, they win the next game, that's it. So
how many big hits did he have in his career so far?
He had 3 home runs in that World Series.
Right.
So there's been a lot of big hits. You'd love to see some more consistency, but the big plays have been there. I want to ask you about Larson's time at the Cape, and he was MVP of that team. He hit 316 at the Cape. That's fantastic. Pitchers League up there.
Wooden bats.
Okay. You tell me how much stock you guys put into what a guy did at the Cape, the top summer league for college players. How much stock did you put into that?
Well, you just like the fact that he had a good freshman year, but he goes to the Cape against high-level competition. Okay, again, with wooden bats, which is a lot different to hit. And he held those numbers. So you feel really good about him coming back. He's got confidence. He played all summer. He's met other people, and he feels a lot better about himself. I think it's a maturity factor to do well in that league. On the flip side, if he doesn't do well, now you got some work to do when he comes back in the fall to get his confidence up. So I think it was a good summer for him. I think playing well in the Cape Cod League is very, very important if you go up there to play. And, of course, he had a good fall. And I expect big things from him this year.
Because I'm going to tell you about a guy later on that's expected to be a mainstay in LSU's lineup that didn't have a good year at the Cape. We're not just going to give you all of the the good news. We got to give you the whole thing. And I've seen when I was calling games, Bill Franquez, who's got every number known to man, would give us their numbers at the Cape, right?
Right.
And you a lot of times you say, well, this guy had a great year at the Cape. but he didn't have a good year here. And a lot of guys, they go up there, maybe they didn't have a great year at the Cape, but they start strong here. So my numbers, my deal on numbers at the Cape is acknowledge and move on, because sometimes they mean something, and sometimes you get a different a different result.
Well, it's not necessarily the numbers they put up, because numbers are all relevant as to competition, who'd you face, and everything else. It's the fact that if they felt they had a good summer, that does a lot for their confidence.
Right, and this is on the summer league, and then we'll move on. Do you not send guys up there with specific instructions from the coaches? Like, we want him to play this position. Like, he's been playing second, but we want him to play short, or we want him to pitch only as a starter, or only an inning at a time, or we want want this guy to get 5 starts and then leave. It's very specific, and it's not necessarily conducive to that team at the Cape winning games. It's the development of the player.
Right. That's what you're there for. What you're looking to do is work on your weaknesses, or get in the work you need to get in. And when you're LSU, you can make those directives. And so, maybe one of those things where a hitter goes up there, hey, we're really looking for him to try to drive the ball out of the park, or we're really looking more consistency. He's been pulling the ball a lot. We want to look him to go gap to gap, spray the ball around the ballpark, and get more doubles in the gaps. So, again, you're looking for certain things. You talk to the coach, and they try to facilitate that for you in the summer.
Speaking of working on your game, you can do it at Marucci's Hitter's House, 5801 Segan Lane, and on Airline Drive in Metairie, 1801. Members at the Hitter's House get 24/7 access to the members-only cages, bullpen cage reservation opportunities. You get a 15% discount at the retail store. They've really ramped up their retail inventory, and of course all of Marucci aluminum and composite bats are there. Founded and operated by current and former big leaguers, Marucci dedicated to quality and committing and providing athletes at every level with the tools they need to be successful. For more information, go to maruccisports.com. A couple more that I want to mention in the outfield. You mentioned Jake Brown. Hit 264 and 91 at bats last year. Cano, he came to LSU thinking we thought maybe he would be a pitcher.
But it's two-way guy.
But he hasn't pitched. He's been a full-time outfielder, and another left-handed bat, another good athlete. He's going to see some time out there.
Yes, he's gonna be in the lineup at certain points of time. Again, look in the early part of the schedule for a lot of different lineups for Jay, because he's got to see how guys perform under the big lights. And I think really the biggest time, if you look at the schedules, when they go to Globe Life Field, you're going to see basically what he thinks is the starting lineup for the first weekend of SEC play.
Globe Life Field, I want to look up the date on that. I think it is the Wednesday, February 26th. So they will be some 8 games into the season when they go there. They go to Globe Life to play Dallas Baptist, and then they go over to Frisco for that tournament where they play Kansas State, Nebraska, and Sam Houston. So about the halfway point of the pre-conference.
And you'll see what they do there. He's going to make some adjustments. Then the next weekend you go against North Alabama, and you say, this is what I think our best SEC lineup is. You see how that looks, and then you open up the next weekend against Missouri.
Couple more in the outfield, and again, this is a crowded house out there. Ethan Fry, big guy. Well, yeah, but he didn't have it last year. Okay, yes, he's got big power, but he didn't homer. He only had a couple of doubles. The potential is there. He's a right-handed bat in a outfield that is full of left-handed bats. So if he can start to hit, provide a little bit of power, a little bit of balance out there with a right-handed bat, he's going to have a chance to have some time, get some time.
Right-handed power bat.
Yeah.
You've got Stanfield in center with a right-handed get-on-base bat, but now you've got a power bat. So, again, flexibility for Jace. Look for him to see some time at DH. I don't know. He's played first in the past, but I think you're going to see trying to get his power in the lineup if it's possible.
First base is full.
I know, first base. So I'm saying he's played first base, but he's pretty stacked with a big guy there that's not leaving.
I want to ask you about the final outfielder we're going to talk about is Dalton Beck. He was at Incarnate Word last year, hit 377, 18 homers, 67 runs batted in 57 games. Cano, you coached a long time at LSU, and you coached in the Southland Conference. So you tell me how 377 in the Southland translates to when you step up into the SEC.
We're going to see how he handles velocity on the mound, off the mound, and how he handles the actual intensity of the crowds. I mean, that's the biggest difference. Your velocity for your pitchers in the South is down a tick. You see a few more breaking balls. You see more power arms here in the SEC. But generally speaking, if you handle the velocity, I think the other thing too, a little more command of secondary pitches in the SEC.
377 is a really good number.
It's a good number.
Last year, when we were talking about Mac Bingham, I said, Canada, this guy hit 360 at Arizona. You said it's not the SEC, and you were right. So I'm going to tell you, this guy is 377, but it's said in cornered word. That ain't the SEC. So you coached at Southeastern, so you know about that league. And
the thing is, when you see in the SEC, the guy you see on Sundays pitching Friday in the Southland Conference, and the guys coming in and out of the pen are pitching the other times, and there's not the bullpen depth that you see in the Southland Conference that you see in the SEC. So there is some correlation. Again, I'm not real big on numbers, but let's see how he does. I hope he does well, because that bodes well for LSU, and I think he's definitely got the potential to do it.
We're brought to you by Dependable Storage, with 8 locations across Louisiana and 1 in Gulfport, Mississippi. They'll match any competitor's pricing and offer convenient online rentals and payments. Free use of the moving truck for new rental move-ins with clean, secure, and conveniently located facilities. Check out the website at dependablestorage.com for locations, pricing, and rentals. Like Skip always says, Dependable Storage, we want your stuff.
If you got lots of stuff.
They got lots of stuff. Let's go around the horn here, and let's start at third base. Michael Braswell was a starting shortstop all of last season. Dan, we talked about Ashton Larson coming on at the end of the season. Braswell really did. He had .311 for the year. The on-base percentage was .411. That was third on the team behind Milam and Jones. And here's what I liked best about him. He really struggled through the first half of the season in the field, made double-digit errors. But in the last 26 games, he only made 2. And he became really solid. It looked like he got, I'm going to use the word comfortable. And now he's moving over to third base. So talk to me about Braswell moving from short to third.
Third base, there's a little less time to think when you get the ball. There's less range. Bottom line is he's got good hands. He's got great reactions. He's got a good arm. I think this allows him to really just focus in, field the ball, get it across the infield. He's still going to play some short, from what I understand. He and Milam are going to play second base and short, and they're going to see how that combination not second base, I'm sorry, third base and short, and see how that combination works out.
Braswell, Milam, and Dickinson, who we're going to talk about in a second when we get to second base, I think that there was experimentation in the fall and maybe even into this part of preseason about who was going to be where. And I think they've landed on Braswell at third, Milam at short, and Dickinson at second. That doesn't mean that can't change.
It can change. I tell you what it does mean, though. From talking to Jay, I think Dickinson is the second baseman.
Yeah.
I think he's going to stay there. That's a good position. He likes the other two at short and third better. It kind of goes back to the Paul Maneri days in the fact that you've got three guys in the infield in the second base, shortstop, and third base. They can all play shortstop and played shortstop. Yeah. You've got great defense there. You add Jared Jones playing first base, who's a good developed into a good first baseman, a big target to throw at. I think they're as solid in the infield as any team that's LSU's had in a long time.
By the way, the other thing I like about Braswell, he made the all-tournament team for the SEC tournament and for the regional. He was playing his best baseball at the end of the season. And
well, he hit 301 in the SEC.
Yeah.
So very good numbers.
Yeah, and the defense came around. One more name I'll throw at you is Tanner Reeves. He spent the last 2 years at Blinn Junior College. He had 398, 28 homers. He drove in 142 runs in the 2 years. So this was a middle-of-the-lineup bat that drove, had a lot of power, drove in a lot of runs. At the junior college level, he could see some time here and there.
He could see some time. He could be the fourth guy in the infield in those three positions, the fourth guy in there, get in some rotation, provide some depth. I think they're going to, if you get ahead in ball games, you're going to see him come in at the end. But I think in the beginning, he's got to fight his way in the lineup.
We know about junior college players as well. I mean, LSU has made a living at times on, junior college players that have come into this program. And immediate impact
Right.
sometimes. So we'll see. I'm not saying Tanner Reeves is going to come in here and be Brandon Larson, okay? But the numbers were good at Blinn. We'll see if that translates.
Coming in from Blinn, that's a great junior college. The Texas junior college system is very good, but Blinn's one of the best in the country, and so he's got a lot of experience. He brings a lot to the team coming from Blinn.
Stephen Milan's going to probably open the season at short. Last year he hit 326, 8 homers, 40 runs batted in. His on-base percentage of .415 was second on the team. He's not a very big guy. He's probably 5'5", 5'6", but he was immediately a fan favorite. He plays the game hard. You can't not like it when a guy that doesn't look like the prototype, comes in there and really excels. And then he was terrific in the postseason as well. And Dan, maybe this is a little bit of a stereotype, but I mean it in a positive way. When somebody that's that short excels and gets the offers and gets all the opportunities to do, tell me this, you coach baseball your whole life. When that guy comes out, he's got to do something extra that the 6'2" guy doesn't have to do. He's got to really grind every time, because you're going to give the 6'2" guy chance after chance after chance. A 6'4" first baseman that can hit the ball 400 feet, you're going to give him chance after chance. If the 5'5" guy doesn't grab your attention right from the beginning, you're probably going to move on. This guy has made it impossible for anybody to move on from him, and that's what I like about Stephen Milan.
Well, you got to like that, and of course, Jay Johnson's got to like him.
That's your joke.
That's my joke.
That's your joke.
But the thing is with Milam, and what every coach looks for, and it's being recruited these days, very important, especially in this era of baseball, college baseball, is they're looking for guys that bring energy to the field. Milan brings energy. Yep. He brings excitement, and the fans pick up on that. And at LSU, that's a monster. That's big for adrenaline. It makes the other players play better. He's a hype-type player. And if he continues to do that, I think he's going to be a fan favorite forever and go down in history as one of the biggest fan favorites, right up there with Todd Walker, Eddie Furness, and of course he reminds me a lot of a guy named Mike Fontenot, who played for us.
And here I thought you might have said Blair Barbier is what I thought you might have gone there. Now Barbier's not a little bit taller than that, but he was a big energy guy too.
He was a great leader.
Yeah.
And Fontenot, much like Milam, short guy, but he had a lot of pop.
He did.
Played with a lot of energy, and teammates responded to him.
Milam, that energy, you got to bring it when you're that size, or you'll get overlooked. We're brought to you by Lake Urgent Care. 25 years of experience dedicated to quality care close to home. They treat minor illnesses and injuries for ages 3 months and up. 17 convenient locations in Baton Rouge, Hammond, Livingston, and Ascension Parish. Plus, they offer occupational health and weight loss solutions. As a seamless extension of Our Lady of the Lake, patients can access care from anywhere with the MyChart patient portal. Our urgent care centers are open 7 days a week. You can walk in, check in online, or schedule a virtual care visit at lakeurgentcare.com. All right, let's move on here. Second base is Daniel Dickinson. 2 years at Utah Valley, hit .369, 27 homers. He also stole 32 bases last year. Now, he looks the part. He's 6 foot. He's 200 pounds. He is a preseason All-American on the D1 baseball list. So there's a lot of expectations to him, which with that comes a lot of pressure. Dickinson is expected to be a middle of the order bat for them.
Yes, and he played for Eddie Smith, who was assistant coach here at Utah Valley, who's now over at Washington. And so he's got some feel for what LSU is like, I'm sure, from Eddie Smith. And guys played in the Mountain West Conference. And a very good conference there. He's played against some great competition. I think he's going to fit in very, very, very well. And I know Jay's real high on him.
Okay, now here's where we go back. We were talking about Larson's big year at the Cape. Dickinson didn't have a big year at the Cape. He hit .205. But, again, the numbers at the Cape, take them, understand them, but don't take them for gospel.
Right, don't take it for gospel. He may have been working on some things, trying to adjust things that they saw on tape, and Jay said, hey, why don't you try to work on this in the summer and get ahead to make some adjustments, and that's the time to do it.
We're brought to you by Bayou Apparel, helping local businesses communicate their message since 2009, offering the highest quality products to showcase your brand. Established or new, Bayou Apparel design experts can help you create eye-catching designs that fit your company's message. They do logos, event T-shirts, and promotional items for your business. Call 225-928-9090 or go to the website at bayouapparel.com. There's not much debate on what's going to happen at first base. Jared Jones last year hit .301, 28 homers, 59 runs batted in, 14 doubles. And he's not – look, one of the big gets of the offseason, it was getting him to come back because he could have easily decided to move on to the professional ranks. And, you know, they're hungry for power bats up there. This guy's a power bat. He looks like the prototypical – first baseman that, you know, just ripped the ball out of the park. So you tell me.
Well, one of the things that when you classify recruiting classes and everything, you should put him in with the transfer recruits, meaning Jay did a great job of re-recruiting Jared Jones and fighting the draft.
That's exactly what it was, too.
And if it's a different era, he never comes back. But in the NIL era, you can fight that money because he can wait a year, get more money from pro baseball, and have some revenue coming in while he's playing this year. So great job by Jay Johnson.
Let me put his career so far and his expectations into perspective for you. He hit 28 home runs last year. If he hits 18 this year, he's going to have the third most home runs in LSU baseball history. It's a pretty good list, Cano. The two guys in front of him at that point would be Cressy and Furness, who are 1-2 in SEC history in home runs. So we're not talking about small accomplishments here for Jones.
Two of the greatest players I ever was around, and that's some pretty high standards you land into. Jared Jones, hopefully he hits more than 18 and he gets right up there top.
I think he will hit with more than 18, especially, you know, I did a conference with Jay, the turf guys asked me to come over and do the panel, and Jay was talking about, you know, the league. There may not be – Texas has come into the league, may have a pitcher's park. That's it. Every other park in this league is a hitter's park. And so when the weather warms up and the ball starts flying, you know, it's one of the real
it's
challenges.
Fun.
Yeah, it's one of the real challenges. You know, you guys had Rosenblatt Stadium when you got to Omaha, which played like the SEC parks because of the bluff that it was on and the wind was usually blowing out. It's a challenge for these teams to play in these smaller parks where the ball flies, get to Omaha where the park's bigger, and it really doesn't. It's gotten a little bit better since when they opened it, when it was just an absolute 100% pitcher's park. But you're playing a different brand of baseball. It's hard to yank it out of that stadium in Omaha.
And it used to be where Hoover, when you played in the SEC tournament, was a good warm-up for Omaha, because Hoover played very big as a AA park, but it seems like the last couple of years it's played a lot shorter.
Yeah. Some of the freshmen that we want to mention that could see some playing time here and there. Mikey Ryan from Rummel at short, David Hogg from Mansfield, Texas at short, and behind Jones at first base, Ryan Costello, who is going to really he had 14 homers as a high school senior. He's 6'3", 205 pounds. This guy's going to compete for some time at DH. Look, not going to get a lot of time at first. Jones is going to soak up the majority of the time at first. So, you know, maybe a midweek game here and there. But
spot him in, give Jones a night off in the field.
Yeah, but, Jones is your full-time guy. But Costello's got enough bat that they may have to find a spot for him if he starts to click.
Yeah, he's a big guy. Definitely talking with Skip. Skip really likes him. He's in the mix. Big left-handed guy. If you hit 14 home runs in New Jersey, that's good because the season's short and the weather's bad.
If you hit 14 home runs in high school in a season that short, where I'm just guessing he was the best player in the state of New Jersey, I don't know. He's certainly one of them. When you're a high school team, you don't pitch to that guy. I mean, you pitch around that guy because the guy behind him ain't as good as him. Right?
Well, I'm going to go with the Greg Maddox's theory. He said Bonds was the easiest guy to pitch to because if there's anybody on base, you just walk him.
Just walk him, right. And so to get 14 pitches to hit in what I'm guessing is a 35-game high school season or something like that, or, if
Up
you go
there.
to the playoffs,
Yeah, you're lucky if you get 35 in.
We're brought to you by Dana Brown, the law office of O.C. Brown. For over 30 years, they've carried on Dana's father, O.C.'s legacy. So if you need legal assistance, the law office of O.C. Brown should be your first and only call. Your law firm for a lifetime, and that initial consultation is always free. Call them at 225-343-1111. On the web, it's OC Brown, OSSIE Brown.com. And, of course, right down the street there is Town Square Pizza with Dana and his staff. Frequently head down the street to get some Town Square Pizza. Delicious hot-baked square pizza. Town Square Pizza makes sure that you're going to get a very generous portion, delicious pizza. And if you're working downtown, you got a limited amount of time for lunch. They'll get you in and out in a hurry. Done the show there many times at Town Square Pizza.
I tell you what, though, it's Mardi Gras season. They're making king cakes now.
That's right. Nice call there. We were getting those last season. Long Mardi Gras season this year. Mardi Gras not
going
till
into
March, so you got an opportunity there. We round out our discussion of the hitters with the catching position. Luis Hernandez at Indiana State. Now, up there for the Sycamores, he played mostly first base. He's only played 24 games at catcher the last 3 years. But this guy can hit. Had 23 homers and 76 runs batted in at Indiana State last year. We're going to see him a lot behind the plate. We're going to see him as a DH also, but we're also going to see Cade Arambidi, who was one of the other freshman gems. 6'3", certainly looks the part of the big-time catcher. He hit .360 last year. So both of those guys, I think, you're going to see behind the plate.
You're going to see them both behind the plate, and Arambidi is a little bit better defensively right now, but to start the season, I think you're definitely going to see Hernandez behind the plate.
All right, so if you haven't caught...
Don't forget Blake Priester's in the mix as well.
It's on my list right here. I was getting to him.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about Hernandez and the inactivity at catcher and then getting back there really behind the plate. How it affects you as a hitter, the catcher position physically demanding, and, of course, getting used to all these pitchers. All these guys got to know each other in the fall.
Yeah, I think the fall is big for a guy like him. And, of course, getting to know these guys, playing in scrimmages, getting to get along with them. In college baseball, it's not as big as pro baseball because the coaches call all the pitches. Yeah. The pitching coach works with the catchers. And so that rhythm is established really with the pitching coach and the calling of the pitches. But defensively, blocking balls, throwing, a lot of work. Josh Jordan does a great job with the catcher. So I don't think that's going to be a big issue. I think he's really knowing that he's not going to play first because of Jared Jones, and he's got to work as a catcher and focusing in on that. Plus, our early season schedules is there for development of guys in certain positions and getting used to the SEC play. So I think we're going to be fine.
It's strange not to mention Alex Malazzo. He's just been here forever, and had a really good career at LSU. He's moved on, but
I think Malazzo's number 2 to LSU baseball behind Bill Franquez, who's been here the longest.
Right. So you mentioned Priester. He was at LSU back in 22. Went to Meridian Junior College and came back. The comp I hear a lot for him is Hayden Travinsky. That don't look for this guy to go out there and pound out a 320 average, but if you need to run a ball out of the park, he's got as good a chance to do it as anybody.
He may be that guy to come off the bench when you need a homer, you need a deep fly ball to win a game.
He, Costello, are one of the outfielders in line to be the DH. I mean, he's got a lot of options.
A lot of options. It's going to move around, give guys rest, play guys in positions. I think that's going to be a very fluid type situation for Jay.
One of the other things that Jay has talked about this preseason, Dan, and this has never been a big staple of LSU, is they may run a little bit more. Here. He said he thought last year they got a little bit dependent on White and Jones to hit the ball out of the park, and there may be some more running. He's been very much a station-to-station guy. And, look, when you've had guys like Cruz and White and Jones, I understand that. I do the same thing. But this year, they're not going to be the St. Louis Cardinals or Whitey Herzog, but They're going to run a little bit more.
You're going to look to be more aggressive on the bases, try to stay out of double play situations, move runners to stay out of the double play, try to take an extra base so you don't have to steal when you have to, maybe bunt a little bit more to try to stay out of those double play situations is the biggest thing for Jay.
So that should get you ready for the offensive side of LSU baseball. And the Tigers will, of course, get started against Indiana Fort Wayne in the opener. Excuse me, Purdue Fort Wayne. Sorry about that. On Valentine's Day. So take the wife, take the girlfriend out on Thursday night, the night before, and then head down. Actually, you can do it that night because the opening day is at 2:00. Here's another Jay Johnson thing that he's done. Some of these February games move them into the afternoon.
2:00 for the cold weather and daylight savings time.
Where were you in 2005 when I needed you? When we were at night in February in the old box and we were all freezing to death out there.
Yeah, but you had a tarp behind you.
Yeah, right. All right. Next week we'll do the pitchers here for Dan Canevari. I'm Charles Hanagriff. This has been the Handycast.